Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad.
Top of the morning to you, laddies. My name is AniMat's, and welcome back to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, me lads? I am doing absolutely well today. Okay. Already just started, and now we got a new fish. Thank you so much, Edward. And by the way, no, I'm not going to do an entire episode with a Jacksepticeye impression. I don't know if I have enough energy to go and do so. But yes, welcome back, everybody, to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And as you may have noticed, as I am recording this, it is indeed St. Patrick's Day, so hopefully you'll have a nice little time today with a little bit of an Irish spring to it, or an Irish step, or an Irish, whatever the fridge metaphor you want to go and put into it. But yes, today we got quite a fine episode we have for you here. Maybe not necessarily Irish related or anything related to St. Patrick's Day. It just so happens that, well, the day that I'm recording this is just, it falls into the holiday. And yes, this is how I am spending my time, with you guys talking about some animation news and some Disney news, which I will tell you right now, later in the episode, we will have a prominent theme of Disney's live action lineup. But don't worry, there is still a bit of that animation connection to make it worth talking about AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, not to mention some other animation news that really is worth diving deep into. So overall, we are still going to have a fun-filled time. So with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? So let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Let's see now. Are you actually ready? Let's see. Yes, I see people are prepared. People are even ready with drinks. That is beautiful to hear. And so, with that said, I believe now it is time that we shall go and get things started. And to go on to our first story, we're going to go and check out a trailer for an animated feature that's going to be coming soon in about a month. Now, it's funny enough, I actually talked with a friend of mine, and it's funny how lately we have been getting a bunch of smaller indie animated features coming out on the big screen with stuff like Night of the Zoopocalypse, and then there's, I think, a Sloth Story, and now we also got the addition of this one right here, which will have people talking, but is it talking for the good reasons? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but I can say that it's about to get very intriguing with what we are about to witness. So with that said, let us go and begin with our first story, as we are going to go and check out the trailer for the upcoming animated feature, Sneaks.
Once a year, sneakerheads come together for the largest convention this side of the Hudson River.
Please can't do anything. When I say anything, I mean anything.
And that is Sneaks, to which the movie is going to be coming out in theaters on April 18th. Now, what's very interesting to note about Sneaks is that it actually has a lot of very familiar names attached to it. Even though this is not from any of the major studios, there are still a lot of prominent celebrities that are among the cast, and even the filmmaker, the one who is directing and writing this, is actually someone with a prominent background, which in this case, the writer and director here is Rob Edwards, who was a Disney veteran and was actually a co-writer alongside John Musker and Ron Clements on films like The Princess and the Frog and Treasure Planet. And among the cast, you will find a whole list of familiar names here, in which the starring role is actually from the new Captain America, Anthony Mackie. Alongside, we also have Martin Lawrence, we got Chloe Bailey, Will McCormack, Sam J. Let's see what else we have here. Sky Brown, Michael Gavier, Lawrence Fishburne, Chris Paul, Keith David, and this is just to go and name a few. And not to mention that also in the cast, and another person who's actually providing some music onto the feature is DJ Mustard, whom he is also going to be an executive music producer in the film. And you may recall DJ Mustard, he was recently, or just Mustard, but he was recently seen alongside Kendrick Lamar during this year's halftime show at the Super Bowl. So basically, it's a little indie project, but with a lot of prominent names that are a part of it to go and create this special little animated feature about sneakers coming to life and having their own little adventure across New York City, which, don't worry, I will go and talk about later. Now, one thing that I will say, and there are some positive things that can be expressed about this movie, is that one thing that I find to be pretty respectful and that it is nice is that this movie does have a chance to go and give a bit of a spotlight to Black culture, or more specifically, modern Black culture that looks into the world of sneakers, because that's an entire industry in itself, and that there are many people out there, in fact, many prominent names as well, who do have this hobby or have this passion that is related to sneakers, because there are some people out there whom sneakers, they could be a really big deal and they could be a major prominent collector's item. Like, of course, you probably heard of like the Air Jordans and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty much representing a side of culture that has not often been looked upon or talked about, really. So there is a little bit of that representation there, which honestly I do find to be a bit nice, that finally there is something out there that's going to go and give it the spotlight. But with that said, though, this doesn't change the fact that we literally have an animated movie about shoes. I mean, that's all it is. It's a freaking animated film where we have sentient shoes that they come to life that humans don't actually know about. And in this case, they're going on their own little adventure. Like, we have reached a point that now animation has made it to where we now officially have an animated movie about sentient shoes. Like, honestly, when I first heard of this concept and when I first saw this trailer, I can't help but think that this is a cartoon's cartoon. And when I say a cartoon's cartoon, this is when you would watch like some kind of animated show or animated movie or even a cartoon, and you see the animated characters talking amongst each other and they say, hey, let's go and watch cartoons. And they put something on and that's what you see. You see something like freaking Sneaks over here. That's what I mean by a cartoon's cartoon. A cartoon's representation of a cartoon. Especially with the fact that just the mere concept alone, and I know I've been going on a little bit about it, but the thing is that it really sounds like something that people would go and make fun of Pixar of. Because this is one of those things, like, you know that whole meme that people have been going on, like, oh, you know, what if toys have feelings? Oh, what if cars have feelings? What if feelings have feelings? Like, you know that little meme that people would go around and they would go and, like, poke fun of Pixar at, where they would have this continuous theme that they keep on going with their animated features. And now in this case here, they literally made an entire movie about what if shoes have feelings. And I remember there was even, I believe there was even an American Dad joke where they would go and make fun of it. It's like, you see Stan with his family. It's like, oh, you know, yeah, she's off to go and watch the new Pixar movie. It's called Clothes. John Ratzenberger plays a tie. It's like that kind, like it's those kinds of jokes that people like to go and like make fun of Pixar, or they would like satirize Pixar out of. And now in this case here, well, this ain't from Pixar, but it's literally the exact same concept. It's basically bringing shoes to life and let them go on an adventure. Except this time around, this ain't like a parody or anything like that. It isn't like making fun of Pixar. It's not like self-aware or anything. It's unironically trying to be an animated film with sentient sneakers. And speaking of Pixar, by the way, that's also a major thing that I have to go and criticize and really point out. It's the plot itself. I cannot help but think that this plot line that they have, it's pretty much almost note by note exactly like Toy Story 2. Like almost to a T. Except now it's about sneakers set in New York City, which, oh my god, wow, wouldn't you know it, folks? Another animated feature set in New York City. Man, it's not like I haven't heard that so many times before. But going back into the factor of Toy Story 2, it's just, I look at this and I can't help but think like, okay, so we got this animated film where we got two prominent leads that they're known as like a pair or like this duo or whatever. And they got this human that they're connected with. And like, the main human is like a good guy. But then suddenly the villain turns out to be this collector who ends up kidnapping one of them, separating the pair. And now the big goal is that they have to go and reunite and get back with this boy that they've grown attached to. Where one is stuck with the collector and has to find a way to go and get out of there with the help of a few characters that are amongst the collection. And then you got the other character, the other main character, who has to go across the city on this big adventure with other prominent characters that they have to go and meet, along with the fact that, like, we got a bunch of celebrity voices that are now attached to this. Like, there's just so many things about this that I can't help but feel like it's honestly one of the most stereotypical animated features in recent years. And yes, like I said before, there is like some nice representation that they're getting into, but then again, I am a white guy, so I can't necessarily fully say that, the black representation here is great. It requires a black person to go and actually look into it to see if the representation is actually good. Like, I highly recommend go and talk to someone like, Toonrific Tariq or Man of 1,000 Thoughts. Like, they're probably in a better position to go and discuss about this movie and in regards to that representation. But still, though, going back into this, though, there's honestly, other than that, like, the reason why I bring that up is because, like, that's the only positive thing that I could really say about it. Everything else, it just freaking looks like crap. I mean, even the animation, it looks weak, honestly. It doesn't really look that great to begin with. And especially even like the human characters, like we even got like, like right over here, like just to show you like this guy, like just at first shot, I don't know if it's the lighting, but the dude looks like a freaking Muppet. The dude right over here, he just looks like a godforsaken living Muppet. Like, who the fridge is the animation studio here? Is it the freaking Jim Henson Creature Shop? Well, I don't know, man. It's just like, and it's not, by the way, it's not the factor that he is black. It's just the designs in general are just so weird, especially on the humans. But yeah, overall, though, they're like, I honestly, it's just hard to find anything positive to really say about Sneaks. The animation, it just looks weird and it doesn't look high quality. The whole subplot, the whole story, it feels like a Toy Story 2 ripoff. And just the mere concept alone just feels absolutely laughable. The fact that we got a movie about sneakers coming to life and having a big adventure in New York City. Because cartoons just can't get enough of New York City, man. Oh, boy. But yeah, anyways, if you are interested in checking out Sneaks, then keep in mind that the film is going to be coming out on April 18th. All right, so with that said, though, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the Sneaks trailer? Are you guys interested in checking this out? Can you find anything more positive to go and say about this movie, or do you think this is a lost cause? In fact, let me go and actually ask you a question over here. Here, I'm just going to go and make a poll. Hold on a sec. All right, I think this would be worth to have a polling time. So, will you be watching Sneaks? I'm not asking if it's good or not. I'm asking if you are going to go and watch it. So, I'm going to go and make this poll here. And now let's see what the chat wall has to say. All right, so, oh man, let's see. Oh man, I'm loving this trailer. It's basically Toy Story 2 meets Nike, but there's potential for this. Despite the bad animation, I believe there's hope. This reminds me of Netflix series Hip Hop Evolution, where they go into the history of hip hop. This is let's see. This is pretty much gonna do the same thing. So I have high hopes for this. Also, AniMat, time to test your black card. Yell out mustard for at least 5 seconds. Oh, I could do much longer than that. Mustard! All right, there we go. I think that is much more than 5 seconds. All right, and I don't know if it's actually the right way to go and yell out mustard, but hopefully I got it right. Anyways, oh, let's see here now. I honestly have no idea what I just watched. This is literally an animated film about sneakers. The story is so generic, and it really does sound like Toy Story 2. The animation is really unimpressive, not to mention it being made by the same people who did the animation for Arctic Dogs and Norm of the North. Also, I think those celebrities, that's where the budget went. Also, I really like Anthony Mackie as an actor, but he deserves better. Well, I mean, as it is an animated film, I mean, it's like a quick little thing to go into, so I don't necessarily blame him. It's like probably he had time to go and record this while filming the Brave New World, so that could be a possibility right there. I don't know, but yeah, I'm just thinking like from the perspective of an actor. That's why. Anyways, first animated movie to come with a mandatory crep check. Look it up. But real talk, this looks like one of those fake movies you see on The Simpsons. The jokes are pretty lame. The voice actors sound bored, and the animation isn't just bad, it's inconsistent. Sometimes the shoes are animated on twos, or like, in terms of frames. Sometimes they're not. Pick one. I'm not excited for this, but I could be wrong. Since this is from the studio that produces nothing but Winnows, it's from Assemblage? Yeah, no, we're cooked. Yeah, you honestly brought up a pretty good point here. And it's true that when you do look into the animation, like, there are times when the sneakers, like, they either look like there's, like, an animation style going, like, okay, I get it if you want to go and have, like, have the humans or the people that they would move smoothly, and then you got the sneakers who move a bit more, like, with less frames, or be more stop motion, like, in the veins of, like, the Lego Movie or Spider-Verse. Like, you see the beginning, like, with this moment with the kid playing around with the shoes, and then suddenly, like, they come to life, and it's like the animation style is different. It's like, okay, this style doesn't look bad, but then later on you see that they don't keep it. Like, suddenly that concept seems to be gone with some of the shoes. So honestly, yeah, there is a lot of inconsistencies going on visually, and it's already not a good look for it. Let's see, what else do we have here? A lot of the comments. Well, that's interesting. Unfortunately, I'm not that interested. It just feels like something akin to Toy Story and Secret Life of Pets. I'm sorry, I'd rather stick to Toy Story in that regard. However, the cast sounds really good, mainly Keith David, my king. Maybe I'm just someone who's not attached to shoes other than as a necessity. I'll take sneakers over heels, thank you. I respect it as an original film and having a sort of theme of black culture. Yeah, that's the thing. That's honestly like another part where it's like, well, I guess it's an original film. I guess it's not a sequel. I guess. It's not an IP movie. Anyways, well, what other comments would there be? Oh, actually, let me just double check. Ah, crap. Did I miss the poll? But sorry about that, folks. But I do believe the last that I did see it, it looked like the grand majority of you actually said no. If somebody actually has the, just out of curiosity, if anybody, yeah, most of us voted no. Yeah, no surprise. So the grand majority of you have said that you're not going to be going to see Sneaks anytime soon. So quite understandable. Let's see now. Oh, actually, somebody actually got the specific numbers. 89% of you who have voted actually said no, where there are 3 of you who have actually said yes. All right. Thank you so much for taking note on that. All right. You guys have saved me here. Let's see what other comments are there. Okay, let's see. Oh boy, another example of how people are running out of ideas for animated films to the point where it makes it about literally anything, complete with an unoriginal plot. Seriously, have we learned nothing from the Emoji Movie? Also, this is another Martin Lawrence first animated voice role, or this is Martin Lawrence first animated voice role since Boog in Open Season. Yeah, I mean, he's not necessarily known for being a voice actor per se, so, oh boy, now, yeah, I guess Boog is now making a comeback in animation, but as a shoe. Yeah, that's the most that we're getting from Martin Lawrence in the animation world, a bear and a shoe. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment, and then we're going to move on to our first break and the next story, so, man, we really are living in a time where we now have an animated movie about sneakers. This basically shows how people in Hollywood are running out of ideas for original animated movies. The animation looks cheap and rushed. The plot is basic and absurd, and the jokes are pretty bad. Overall, this is a pass for me. Well, I will say there are a few of you who have said that you might be interested, and a few of you who have actually seen some of the potential in this. So, I mean, there is a possibility that maybe I could be wrong and that it could turn out to be better than what the trailer portrays it. But for the most part, it looks like a lot of you are really not that interested in seeing it. But for those of you who are curious, keep in mind that Sneaks are going to be coming out, or the movie is going to be coming out in theaters on April 18th. All right, so now we're going to go on to our first break. And when we do come back, we're going to go a little bit more onto the present, and we're going to be talking about the Looney Tunes. However, even though this is a moment of celebration, especially with their new movie release, this is not really the case, or at least with what I will be talking about, it's a moment more of alarm than it is to celebrate. And you'll understand what I mean when we come back. Welcome back. Now, on our next story that we have here, we are going to be discussing about the Looney Tunes. And during this weekend, animation fans have been celebrating the big occasion where the long-awaited The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, finally came to North American theaters. And so far, it's already been getting a lot of high praise from the fans. Even though it hasn't been doing great in terms of the box office, and that there is a high probability now that it might end up being considered a bomb, but still though, those who have seen it have highly enjoyed it, and I'll be saving my thoughts when I'll be releasing my review later this week. But with that said though, there's also another situation that actually did occur during the weekend, because at the same time as people were going out to go and checking out The Day the Earth Blew Up on the big screen, or at least some people have, there's also another thing that did occur on the Looney Tunes, specifically on Warner Brothers streaming platform Max, and that is the fact that when it comes to the classics, they're gone. Yeah, Warner Brothers decided to just go and take it all out entirely. Yes, it has been confirmed that Warner Brothers Discovery has decided to go and take out all the classic Looney Tunes from its streaming platform, Max. And when I say the classic Looney Tunes, I mean specifically all the cartoons that were released from 1930 all the way up to 1969. And it doesn't matter how popular or how beloved these cartoons are, even if it's stuff like What's Opera Doc or Duck Amuck or Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century or the Hunting trilogy, or even some of the Oscar-winning ones like Birds Anonymous or what else was there? Like Speedy Gonzales or 99 Bugs and stuff like that. It doesn't matter because now they are all gone. And specifically to go and read you here from my source on Deadline, it even states right over here, Deadline confirmed with a representative that the original shorts are no longer on Max. This is part of a new plan where the streamer will prioritize adult and family programming. Children's programming, such as Looney Tunes and Sesame Street before it, doesn't fare as well and is no longer viewed as a priority. So it's pretty much the same reason as to why they decided to no longer renew the contract of Sesame Street, and that pretty soon the entirety of that show is going to be out of Max and will not have a streaming home per se. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Looney Tunes in its entirety is completely out of the platform. There are a few things that are still available on Max that you could go and check out Looney Tunes wise, in which they stated you could still check out the entirety of the new Looney Tunes cartoons. You could check out some of the episodes of New Looney Tunes, or as it used to be called, Wabbit. There's also 2 seasons of Baby Looney Tunes. There is also the podcast Looney Tunes Presents Bugs and Daffy's Thanksgiving Road Trip. You can also check out Tiny Toons Looniversity, as well as the Spring Break special. There's also 5 seasons of Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, as well as 2 seasons of Bugs Bunny Builders. So it's more the newer stuff, or at least some of the newer stuff, that you could go and check out on Max. But still, though, in terms of the classics, the original cartoons that made the Looney Tunes the legends that we all know and love, well, that's pretty much gone. And the thing that I gotta say, what honestly makes it frustrating is that there was a point that Warner Brothers, they said that they wouldn't go and do this, and yet they did. It was actually back in 2023 when they started doing that entire purge of so many different projects that were available on Max, and they decided to no longer go and show them. And there was at one point that they actually did an error where they also listed the entirety of the Looney Tunes, but then they would say that they wouldn't do that. It actually stated right over here that this marks a departure from previous maneuvers. In 2023, Max clarified that the classic cartoons was not leaving the platform after an erroneous list of titles being removed in December, including the program on it. Looney Tunes was included in error as a title leaving the platform. This is not the case, and the show will continue streaming on Max. Well, I guess now it turns out to be a flat-out lie, and I think it is safe to say that we can no longer go and trust what Warner Brothers Discovery says in terms of what they're going to keep or not and stuff like that, because this really feels like the Donald Trump strategy, where there is a rumor going around that they would do something that is highly unpopular, and then they would go and make a statement saying like, oh, we're not going to go and do that, and then like, wait about a year or so, and suddenly they would go and do it. This is not the first time that this occurred with Warner Brothers Discovery, because that's exactly what happened with Coyote versus Acme, where there was the whole controversy that they turned Batgirl and Scoob Holiday Haunt as a tax write-off, but then suddenly, afterwards, they said like, oh, okay, yeah, I know people are upset, but we're not going to go and do that again. We're not going to take completed projects and turn them into tax write-offs. And then you wait a while later, and suddenly they did the exact same thing with Coyote versus Acme, as well as several other unnamed animated projects, in which it has been reported that they ended up earning $110 million just by turning a whole bunch of projects that they have canceled, animated projects, into tax write-offs. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that, folks. Just needed to get that out of my system. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, now it really feels like whenever they would say like they're not going to go and do it, then it really feels like, yeah, they're going to go and eventually do it. They would just have to wait a little while because they know it's unpopular, but they just want to wait until that things are calmed down from that controversy, hoping that people would forget it, and then suddenly, whoop, they would go and immediately do so. And what a coincidence that this has happened yet again to the Looney Tunes. But this time around, it's not towards a new Looney Tunes project. It's actually towards the classics, where now they no longer have a streaming home. And I gotta say that this entire move, I feel like it is absolutely concerning. Not just for the Looney Tunes, but just for the future of Warner Brothers in general. Or, I mean, more in terms of their animated projects, the stuff that they would go and make that are more related to families and kids and stuff like that. What is the future going to look like with that? And a major question that I personally have is in regards to the vocabulary of what they mean, specifically when they said that children's programming is no longer going to be a priority. And they say that with those things, they decided, you know what, we're not going to prioritize stuff like Sesame Street and Looney Tunes. But just out of curiosity, even though they said that their top priority is now adult and family programming, but what constitutes as children's programming, though? What is considered children's programming? Because now the vocabulary has become pretty vague, because beforehand, like with Sesame Street, you could go and identify that as, okay, maybe they're just going to let go and no longer focus on preschool stuff. Maybe that's what they mean by children's programming. But now, since they did add the classic Looney Tunes onto the mix, now it feels like a bit of a mystery on like what's going to be next. And I know that they have been purging a whole bunch of like, not just like new shows that were once exclusive to Max, but also like a bunch of classic Cartoon Network shows. I like, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there are some like Ed and Eddie you can no longer find on the channel, or like there have been a bunch of like Cartoon Network stuff as well that you can no longer go and find. So what I'm wondering is, at this point, what do they mean specifically by children's programming? Do they mean the stuff that are aimed exclusively for kids? Or do they mean the stuff that isn't necessarily geared towards adults? Like, if it's not for the same kind of audience as like an Adult Swim program, like either Rick and Morty or Smiling Friends, then they would just no longer go and prioritize it. And I know that technically some could go and focus exclusively on just Max in general, but it also makes me worried about the future of stuff like Cartoon Network. What's going to happen with that? Considering that slowly but surely, Warner Brothers Discovery has slowly been disintegrating a lot of the Cartoon Network stuff. I mean, let alone with the channel itself. It's been a long time since we've had anything that's legitimately new from them. I mean, I know that they have recently announced a whole bunch of new projects during last year's Annecy Film Festival, but that still doesn't change that it's not necessarily in a great shape, where the majority of the time they've been dependent on Teen Titans Go in order to keep the channel running. But not to mention as well that there was also that moment where they completely shut down the Cartoon Network website, and also shut down the another like smaller streaming service that they have, which was Boomerang. So at that point, it kind of makes me wonder, is there even going to be a Cartoon Network in the future? Like this whole focus that they're trying to do, how far are they really going to go with this? It's honestly a factor that just feels very concerning. And especially with the strategy that Warner Brothers has right now, you never know like what's going to be their next steps and what are they going to do in terms of focusing on like where they want like adult and families instead of children's program. And like I said before, it was very much vague with what they're talking about and what they're saying, because now children's programming seems to consist of classic Looney Tunes and Sesame Street. So what's going to be next? Is it all Cartoon Network shows that are going to be taken down? Is it going to be all, like all their older animated films that they're also going to go and remove? It's honestly very concerning with what the next step is going to be and why right now the future of their kids section is pretty much in limbo. But some people might be wondering at this point, okay, well, if we can no longer go and use Max to go and check out the classic Looney Tunes, where can you go and find them? Well, I have actually been pointed out to a social media thread, and that is white over here, which is right over here. And this is from the artist Wagtoon, which he actually pointed this out to me. So thank you, Wagtoon, for giving, sorry, I keep tripping on my own words. Thank you for giving, for. Fudge nabbit, why is this so hard to get this out? I'm trying to say a thank you, but thank you for showing me this thread that you have made. That's what I wanted to go and say. Son of a fish, why did... I don't know what the fridge happened there. But anyways, yes, right over here, Wagtoon actually provided this thread to go and actually discuss about where can you go and find the Looney Tunes cartoons, or at least the classic cartoons. Now that they are no longer on Max, or that they no longer have a streaming platform to present themselves, right now the best solution that you can do is physical media, to go and get them on either DVD or Blu-ray. So you do get a bunch right over here. Like he already listed a whole bunch of examples of what you could go and get. And these include the Golden Collections, the Superstars Collections, the Mouse Chronicles, the Chuck Jones Collection, the Bugs Bunny 80th Anniversary Collection, the Platinum Collection, and the Warner Archives Collector's Choice Series, the latest one that they have included. Right now, that's the best way that you can go and actually have the Looney Tunes cartoons. That's currently the best way that you could go and actually watch them whenever you want and actually own them in your own hands. Like now you no longer have to be dependent on having a streaming platform to go and check out these classic cartoons. And especially now that you have like a wide selection of what you could go and watch. And I myself actually do have a bunch of those. Like I personally own the Platinum Collection, and I recently got my hands on 3 of the 4 Collector's Choice. So I do have at least most of the Looney Tunes collection all set with me. Now, I know that also some people might be worried about the possibility of disc rot, because it was recently reported that there have been a lot of old Warner Brothers DVDs that are pretty much at the point that they have become unusable, that you would go and put them on and they would no longer be working. Well, that would not necessarily be a major issue. At the most, in this case here, like the whole disc rot problem would be if you have the Golden Collection and you've had it for like almost 20 years now, and that now the discs are no longer in great shape and that you no longer keep them in good shape. That's the worst case. But for the most part, it's not necessarily that big of an issue. As long as you take care of your discs, and as long as like they're not like super old, they're not like over 20 years old, they should be fine. Like I recently went and checked on my Blu-rays of the Platinum Collection, and they've so far been okay for the most part. But still, though, if you want to go and get an update, it is still worth it to get some of the newer stuff, including the Collector's Choice, or just recently, they actually did announce a new collection that's going to be coming soon, which is called the Warner Archives Looney Tunes Collector's Vault. And there's going to be a Volume 1 that's going to be coming out, I believe, in July. if I remember correctly. That's when they have announced that this one is going to be coming out. And just to go and quickly quote here from Wagtoon, he did say that this set will be called Looney Tunes Collector's Vault and will not only include cartoons in the brand new to disc, but will also feature upgraded Blu-ray versions of cartoons that were previously exclusive to DVD. If Warner Archives plans to put these out quickly as they did with the Choice series, then it will be only a matter of time before the entirety of the cartoons released on the Golden Collection and the Superstars set are available via Blu-ray. Now, I will say, though, that I will admit, personally, like, yeah, it's cool to see Warner Brothers actually doing so and keep on releasing these cartoons on Blu-ray. But one thing I am wondering, though, is considering that I already do own the Collector's Choices and the Platinum Collection, I wonder if with the Collector's Vault, if I do own that, would I end up mostly be getting repeats? Would I need the Collector's Vault in order to get the entire collection? I'm just wondering, if it would be necessary for me to go and have it, just to go and make sure. Because, already with the Blu-rays that I have, I got plenty of the Looney Tunes cartoons as is right there. But still, though, this is just a heads up on what you can do in order to go and save up on the Looney Tunes cartoons and have a way to go and access them, because unfortunately it's no longer going to be on a streaming service like Max. And again, it does feel concerning about what Warner Brothers is going to do with the future of their kids section, or what they consider to be children's programming, and what they're going to do not just on Max, but with the company in general. And I know that some people could argue that, well, technically, they are planning on some new Looney Tunes projects in the future. But then again, knowing how Warner Brothers is right now, it's tough to say if those are even going to happen in the first place, or if they just end up being tax write-offs. So that's why right now I just feel like with stuff like the Looney Tunes and Cartoon Network and stuff like that, their future just feels uncertain. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you all feel about what Warner Brothers is currently doing with the Looney Tunes? How do you feel with the fact that now the classic cartoons are no longer available on Max? Let me know what you all think and put in your opinions. All right, so let's see what we got here now. Even after having a blast with The Day the Earth Blew Up a few days ago, I shall never forgive David Zaslav for treating animation like absolute garbage. Now with the removal of the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, we're now at a point that it's the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's not forget how Village Roadshow is now on the brink of bankruptcy. What a really sad time we live in. And when it comes to watching options, there's also a way of being a pirate, if you know what I mean. Well, I mean, I guess that's also a way. I mean, if you're going to go towards that route, I mean, you could try that, I guess. Anyways, let's see here. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, Zaslav? And don't tell me you like the young people. That's weird, Zaslav. Anyways, I'm so tired of this coming from Warner Brothers Discovery. I mean, really? On the opening weekend of their new movie? Really? Also, Looney Tunes are always meant for adults, not only for children since the beginning. Get things right, WBD. I need a drink. Yeah, well, okay. I just want to go and clarify, by the way. Technically, when it comes to The Day the Earth Blew Up, it's not necessarily Warner Brothers' movie. I mean, yes, they did make it, but they weren't the ones who actually distributed it. Keep in mind that they gave up on that, and they handed it over to Ketchup Entertainment in order to do so. At least in North America. I mean, maybe Warner Brothers has done so in the other countries, but for North America, yeah, they didn't do jack all. Which is why the box office numbers have been disappointingly low with that movie. All right. Anyways, I wasn't expecting Space Jam 2 to be a prophecy. Okay, all jokes aside, this is just completely horrible and further proves Zaslav should just up and retire to the millions he already has, or better yet, be fired because this strategy just isn't working. Is it even a strategy? Better question. How is this even good for Max? Imagine that marketing. Come subscribe to Max. We have nothing. And you know, that honestly brings up a very good point. I feel like right now, in the state that Max is, I feel like, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it's becoming the next Paramount Plus, where now it feels like it doesn't have much to offer, and it's going to turn out to be a massive detriment for the entire company. And I mean, just recently, I actually talked to a friend of mine, and we were talking about how, like, yeah, this whole thing is bad, but at this point, what is it that Max is offering right now that's worth watching? Like, what is it that you could go and check out on that streaming platform that it pretty much necessitates a streaming subscription? Like, what can we do? What is there? Okay, like, so one said, all right, there is The Last of Us. I guess that is a good point right there. But yeah, The Last of Us, The Penguin. All right, so there's 2 shows, but other than that, though, like, is there really anything else? It's like, if it's just, you know, if it's just like those 2 series that make Max worthwhile, then that's not really much. Again, considering that there was another person who actually recommended pirating, you know, that seems like a quicker and easier alternative compared to what we got over here. So yeah, that it's just right now, currently with the platform, it's really not looking good. Anyways, let's see, what other comments do we have here? Warner Brothers Discovery on David Zaslav did something stupid again. In other news, water wet. This is honestly just insulting. The fact that they removed the classic Looney Tunes is just insulting, not to mention happening when the day the earth blew up makes it worse. If Coyote versus Acme didn't prove it, this proves Warner Brothers does not care about the Looney Tunes brand and do not deserve it. Seriously, that all the tunes will be deleted line from Space Jam: A New Legacy has unfortunately aged well. Yeah, tell me about it. Anyways, again, I must ask, why does Warner Brothers even have a streaming service if they don't have anything on it? The Looney Tunes are the backbone of Warner Brothers itself. To get rid of them is like Disney getting rid of Mickey and Friends. At this point, they better be off licensing all of their content to Disney Plus, especially because a lot of Warner Brothers' own media and Toonami anime are already on there if you also have Hulu. I mean, honestly, that would be weird, but I would imagine the crazy day that Disney Plus would suddenly be the home of Coyote versus Acme, that Disney would I know I've mentioned this before, but I would love to see Disney making this like epic power move of taking Coyote versus Acme and just displaying it on Disney Plus, or even putting it up on the big screen. I mean, I know that sounds insane, and it's, you know, it's almost like a fact that it's never going to happen. But still, though, it's just like this insane scenario just to go and imagine that Disney would be the savior of the Looney Tunes, like the ultimate irony of animation right there. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment, and then we're going to go on to our next break. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to say it now. I totally saw this coming. It makes me glad I don't even own Max. Even if my uncle lent it to me, I wouldn't get it myself. It's really no surprise coming from Max, considering that they've been removing content left and right, not just Looney Tunes, but even Cartoon Network shows, even some of the recent stuff like We Bare Bears. I mean, basically nowadays, you would only catch the stuff on literally the more expensive services like Hulu. I can rant, but it goes to show that home media is a treasure. Exactly, man. That's the power of physical media. Definitely much better than any and all streaming services. All right, so now we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, now it will be time that for the rest of this episode, we're going to go very Disney-centric. And when we do come back, well, let's just say I'm going to show you something freaky. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, yes, we're going to be entering into the wonderful world of Disney, but more specifically, their upcoming live action lineup that they have in store from here all the way up to the summer. And the reason why I included this story is because, well, considering that I will be talking a lot about the live action remakes, I might as well go and fit this one in as well, considering that this is a new trailer for one of their upcoming live action movies. You know what? It does fit well, and I do have some things that I'd like to go and discuss about this. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the teaser trailer for the upcoming fan favorite sequel, Freakier Friday.
Oh, that's interesting. Your lifelines. It's like they've... Oh, like that.
H-O-T-T-O-G-O.
And that is Freakier Friday, to which it is going to be coming out in theaters on August 8th. Now, I will say that I do remember when the first Freaky Friday actually came out. I'm not going to say the original Freaky Friday, because I do believe that the one with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis is actually a remake to an older Disney movie. You could go and correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the thing is that I remember when that movie came out in the early 2000s, and that actually turned out to be like a fan favorite. Like, not necessarily a Disney Channel original movie, but it did get a little bit of that same vibe, and it did play a significant part in really bringing up the fame of Lindsay Lohan at the time, as well as, having like a small comeback of Jamie Lee Curtis with her career as well, to step aside from like all the Halloween movies and try something more comedic, something more fun, and something more family friendly. But I mean, in terms of the movie itself, it's anything too big. It really is just the novelty of seeing Lindsay Lohan acting like an older woman and Jamie Lee Curtis acting like a younger woman. Just like a lot of like that, like generational, that generation swap that we see going on. Like, at the most, it is a cute concept, but with that said, though, nowadays it is considered to be a nostalgic classic, and millennials did have a lot of fond memories of that time, especially like back during Lindsay Lohan's prime. Like, they would often use Freaky Friday as a prominent example of her work alongside The Parent Trap, or at least actually it's more like using Freaky Friday as a prominent example of Lindsay Lohan's acting after The Parent Trap. So from there, it's no surprise that, of course, like when Disney is really banking on nostalgia, that they would go and bring back Freaky Friday, but now giving it an update, where this time around, it's not just Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis doing that body swap again, but now there is an additional generation coming in, where now it's 3 generations now swapping bodies between 4 women or girls in this case. So, like, yeah, it's pretty, like, from what we are seeing in this teaser trailer, it's very much the same movie that we're getting, but now it's a little bit more elevated. Now there's like that extra layer of an extra generation that is being played around here. It's basically like trying to expand upon the original's novelty. It's what they're pretty much shaping this up to be. And to be very honest, I do find that there's something very familiar with what Disney is doing with Freaky Friday, and it reminds me very much of Hocus Pocus 2. And you probably remember a few years back when Disney released that onto Disney Plus and really hyping up that, the fan favorite Halloween movie is going to be making a big comeback, and that the Sanderson sisters we all know and love have returned. And I mean, as someone who did love Hocus Pocus, in fact, me and my family, we almost make it a whole tradition for every Halloween that we would watch Hocus Pocus. So eventually we did watch the sequel, and honestly, it's not really a good movie, but it does serve its purpose. It is more of a crowd pleaser where we do get to see the Sanderson sisters back with the original actresses returning, including Bette Midler, where they would go and just, be their wicked selves, but now in the modern world. And in terms of that, it's like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm not really in the mood to go and watch this again, or I wouldn't replace this replace this with, or what I mean to say is that, I wouldn't be like watching this instead of the original Hocus Pocus, or I wouldn't do like a marathon of both. Like I've seen it once and that's enough. But I mean, like, hey, it's fun to see the Sanderson sisters again. That's pretty much the whole point of it. And honestly, I kind of feel like it's the same thing with what we're getting here with Freakier Friday. It's pretty much we're pretty much getting the same thing, but now it's like, we got that extra layer. It's bringing Freaky Friday to the modern age, and now we also have this extra generation to like modernize things up. And not to mention that there is also that aspect that this time around it's really to see Jamie Lee Curtis recently having a major comeback with her career, especially after the Oscar win with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, she is becoming more of a beloved actress once again. And in this case here, it's also seeing Lindsay Lohan making a prominent return after many years of absence. But in this case here, it's like, it's pretty much seeing Freaky Friday, but now set in modern times. And like, now we get to see Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan acting more like Gen Z or even as Gen Alpha. That's pretty much the whole premise. And that's why, honestly, I don't really have anything against this movie. Like, honestly, it's not, like, it was cute when I watched it back in the day, like with the Freaky Friday, but now it's like, I'm not necessarily in the mood to go and watch like this version myself. I don't necessarily have that much nostalgic attachment to the original. But in this case here, I could see where it's going to find its audience. For people who did enjoy the first Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, they're going to have a great time with this. I think if you want to see a new Freaky Friday and you want to see Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan doing their thing like they did in the first film, but now in today's age, in the 2020s, well, I think this movie is definitely going to be for you. So if you are interested in checking out Freakier Friday, then keep in mind it's going to be coming soon to theaters on August 8th. Now, with that said, though, even though, I didn't really have a whole lot to go and say here, it's pretty much simple to go and explain my thoughts on this, but now I would like to know your thoughts on the teaser trailer. What did you all think of Freakier Friday? Are you guys excited to go and check this out? Are you guys a bit more hesitant? Or especially if you are a fan of the 2003 movie, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And actually, I might as well go and make another poll here. I might as well go and actually ask you all, are you gonna watch Freakier Friday? There we go. So we're just gonna go and say yes, and then also a no. So let's see what people have to say. Okay, well, it's not a live-action Disney remake, so I'm already on board. I love the 2003 Freaky Friday, and even enjoyed the 1977 original, and tolerated the Disney Channel original movie. So I am excited for this. Having 4 people switch minds instead of 2 is a very fun and interesting twist on the formula. Good on Lindsay Lohan for getting her life together so she could return for the Disney sequel we didn't know we needed. Maybe she could come back for The Grandparent Trap and Herbie Fully Loaded or Fully Reloaded. Now, hold on a sec. Lindsay Lohan is doing better with herself, but I don't know if that means that now we need more of these live action sequels that Lindsay Lohan was in before. I mean, I wouldn't be against the idea of bringing back Herbie, but maybe we could bring back Herbie in a different way. Let's see here. Okay, this is a movie. This is fine. I remember liking the 2003 Freaky Friday. It's a good movie. I don't think this movie will be great, but I think it'll be fine. I'm really confused about the 4-way body swap. Okay, so Jamie, Lindsay, and I assume Lindsay's daughter, and Lindsay's daughters, and who's the other girl? Okay, so it's a stepdaughter. I feel like this is going to be super confusing and doesn't really work. Apparently, the stepsisters are in Lindsay and Jamie's bodies and vice versa. I think it'll probably make sense if you go and actually watch it. Anyways, let's see. The most experience I've had with Freaky Friday is that musical Disney Channel movie. Yeah, I'm a musical hell fan. Why you ask? But with this, I didn't know what to expect. But I'm down. It does kind of feel like just a repeat, but at the same time, Jamie Lee Curtis is hamming it up, and I like that the body swapping has amped up. Is it a high priority to watch? Not quite, but a viewing probably isn't gonna hurt. It's like getting a little dessert after the main course that is the bad guys too. All right, you know what? I'm honestly surprised to see a lot of you guys having enthusiasm for this movie, which honestly it's nice to see, you know? Hey, if you're hyped up for it, then good on you, dude. More power to you. Anyways, let's see. I'll admit the original Freaky Friday was a fun time, and I definitely understand why it's a fan favorite. And this is definitely giving people what they want. Both Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis are solid in their roles, and it could be a fun time. Honestly, I think it could be similar to Hocus Pocus 2, where it's not as good as the original, but still a fun time. Exactly. I think, you know, it's like I said, like it's giving me that same vibe, and I think the audience who wants that, they're definitely going to get what they asked for. And I mean, like honestly, there was a previous comment that actually did pointed this out, and oh my goodness, I just see something very interesting here. Wow, this is a very rare occasion that now the poll here is actually split 50-50. It is completely divided, where half of you said that yes, you're going to go and see it, and half of you said that no, you're not going to go and watch the movie. Interesting results, may I say. But to go back previously to what I was talking about, yeah, like honestly, I think that's like one of the major things that people are going to love to go and see. And it's especially with Jamie Lee Curtis just completely hamming up her performance. And I mean, we do get a lot of that in this teaser trailer alone, like right over here. Like we see she's just freaking out. Oh, it's grandma. Ah, boom. So yeah, we do get that. So I understand. Like, yeah, I even remember in the original, not Lindsay Lohan, but Jamie Lee Curtis was a complete show stealer in that one, and high chance that she's going to be a show stealer in here too. Anyways, by the way, just want to go and make sure that I didn't, hold on a sec. Hopefully, I don't know. Well, this is going to be a YouTube thing. Hopefully it won't be anything copyright trouble. Just want to go and make sure. But that'll be a later problem. Either way, it'll be easy to fix. Let's see what else we got here. Just want to see, are there any other comments to go and read here? I'm going to be real here. While I did grow up with the original 2003 movie and I do like it for what it is, the trailer for this sequel looks really weak in my opinion. My biggest criticism right away is how flat, low contrast, washed out, and bad the lighting and cinematography looks. This looks nothing like the 2003 movie in the slightest, which looks like a proper theatrical movie instead of a cheap direct-to-DVD/streaming movie that's just being released in theaters, which is very disappointing. Yeah, honestly, that's one thing I will say is that I'm kind of surprised that Disney is releasing this on the big screen and not on Disney Plus. Considering that with Hocus Pocus 2, that was a tremendous hit. In fact, I would even say it's one of the biggest hits for a Disney Plus original movie. So I'm kind of surprised that with Freakier Friday, that they decided to go and put this out in theaters. But then again, I guess with Disney's commitment and that they made a promise to movie theaters that they're going to go and put films more out on the big screen instead of just relying on their streaming service. I guess, like, yeah, there is also that factor as well. Let's see what other comments are there to go and read. Just want to see. Just want to make sure I don't repeat as well. I think I might even go with. Okay, I think I'll go with 2 more comments over here. Yeah, I have seen Freaky Friday when I was a kid, along with Mean Girls with my sister. I was one of those kids that had a crush on Lindsay Lohan, along with Brittany Murphy. I missed that early 2000s era. I guess this sequel could at least give me a nice throwback to the early 2000s. Jamie Lee Curtis as an actress has gotten better for a while now, so yeah, I'll definitely see it this summer. All right. Let's see. Honestly, with this, it's a pass. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can imagine this being fun for nostalgia purposes, but for me, I am not really a fan of the first movie. The female lead wasn't really my favorite character, but I do love the acting, even Jamie Lee Curtis. In fact, I do want to know if she would ever like to do voice acting for a Disney animated film. I think she has a lot of potential to play a villain or another lead. Maybe I do want to see that someday. Oh, honestly, that would be great. I don't know if Jamie Lee Curtis has ever done that, but nowadays, I think Jamie Lee Curtis would be great for voice acting. I think she could do a tremendous job, especially with the kind of range that she has, and like, especially from what we have seen in this trailer with how she could be comedically over the top. I think she could actually be a great voice actress for an animated film. I don't know for what project though, but someone should go and get on that to bring in Jamie Lee Curtis. That would honestly be great casting right there. All right, so anyways, with that said, and well, by the way, very interesting results to see that there are some people who are hyped up for it, and then there are those who might not be. But for those of you who are anticipated for Freakier Friday, then keep in mind that the movie shall be coming out later in the summer on August 8th. All right, so now we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, we will be discussing about the live action remakes. And considering that we got a major one that's going to be coming out later this week, we will be talking about the latest controversy that it found itself in. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, yes, now it is time that we are actually going to get into the live action remake territory. Ah, yes. And considering that the Snow White remake is just around the corner, it will soon be the conclusion of all the discussions, or at least one more big push with all the discussions about the film and stuff like that. So, of course, there's going to be a moment where many people will be talking about now the movie itself. But my God, did we go through years, and I do mean years of controversy related to this feature, no matter what the case may be, regardless if it's going to be with its stars or with the movie itself or some of the changes that they would go and do. There has been a lot of things that this movie has done to really go and flip the film's lid. It's been absolutely nuts so far. But since we are just about to get into the finish line, Disney had one more final lap to go and do with this movie. And even on that one, they kind of tripped. And what I mean by that is in regards to the premiere. And with the premiere, okay, well, maybe they didn't necessarily trip, but I do mean that, yes, even though we're very close to it actually being released, it was a significant moment where, once again, they did fall onto controversy. And this time around, it's actually regarding its premiere, which was held on Saturday, March 15th at the El Capitan Theater. And what Disney decided to do with that premiere is a little bit different than what they would regularly do with premieres. And in this case is that Disney decided that they wanted to go and hold a pressless premiere, that everything would still be going on. They would still have parties going on like before and after showing the movie. You would have the stars interacting with fans and stuff like that. The only difference is that the press was not present in order to go and interview the actors there. So it was really just limiting stars like Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler, just, being there for the fans, just watching the movie. And even Rachel Zegler just performing some of the songs or some of the new songs in the feature, like Waiting on a Wish, on some of the different premieres. I don't know if she also did it for the American premiere or the El Capitan premiere, but still, though, they really kept this very much limited. And because of the pressless premiere that they did, it did cause a lot of alarms, and seeing Disney doing something quite unorthodox with their entire premiere, with this little special event, especially with a prominent movie that they have been hyping up for quite some time now. And a major reason as to why they decided to go and do this is mainly because, well, ironically enough, is to try to go and avoid any additional controversy that may come, specifically with its stars with Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. In fact, I got a new fish here. Thank you very much, Omid. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. Yes, even in this article from The Hollywood Reporter here called Inside Disney Snow White Troubles, they need to get this over with. It pretty much chronicles many of the controversies that the Snow White remake got into. And like I said before, like it ranges to like so many things, whether it be like the changes that they would do in the movie itself, whether it be the casting of people like Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, or some of the comments that the actresses have done over the years. And that's why they decided to do a pressless premiere, just in case, so that people don't say anything that could be more controversial. And from there, they could just focus on just having the premiere, and that's it. Now, the good news for Disney is that the premiere actually went pretty well. It actually turned out to be a hit. Everything went according to plan. Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, they did pretty well on their part. And even the people who went to go and see it, even though a lot of it are just like influencers and Disney fans and stuff like that, they were, well, believe it or not, reacting positively to the movie. Yes, the people who did see it during the premiere, they were hyped up, and they were actually saying that it was actually very good, and Rachel Zegler was amazing with her performance. So yeah, I don't know what that actually does mean with the movie itself, but then again, it could be mostly the hype that's been mentioning. And like, yeah, some people are saying like, those are just first reactions. And generally with first reactions, when you're in the atmosphere of the premiere and being there with the filmmakers and the stars, like being in that same environment, of course, it's going to go and like build up a lot of the positivity from the experience. But anyways, with that said though, the premiere itself actually did do well. It's just that the way that Disney handled the entire premiere and the fact that they made it pressless, that's the thing that caught people's attention, and that, well, ironically did cause a little bit of controversy, especially with the way that they have been treating Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. And some have even stated that it is in particular because of Rachel Zegler, so that she wouldn't go and say something controversial. And even in this article right here from The Hollywood Reporter, it even pointed out that the way that Disney has been handling this, well, it's a little bit similar, or it parallels to what Warner Brothers has done with the Flash premiere, where I'm just going to go and actually read you here in terms of like what is going on. But it is stated that Snow White isn't the first major film to manage a red carpet in such a restricted way. Warner Brothers did much of the same for the world premiere of The Flash, starring the embattled Ezra Miller. But Miller has been accused of several criminal acts, whereas Zegler has simply generated social media blowback for comments including criticizing the original film, supporting Palestine, and slamming Donald Trump. Gadot, meanwhile, is a divisive figure on social media due to the Israeli actress speaking out in support of her native country since the October 7th terror attack by Hamas. After her appearance at the Oscars, a baseless rumor circulating online that the Wonder Woman star refused to present Best Documentary to the Palestinian film No Other Land. Her reps say she was never asked. So basically, with the two stars, like, yeah, with Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, I mean, they're not as bad as Ezra Miller. They did not commit any crimes whatsoever, or let alone where they were caught on film committing any insane crimes. But it's mostly because of the comments that caused a lot of controversy on social media and even caused a bit of culture wars. And ironically enough, it's from like two opposite sides of the spectrum, where we got Gal Gadot, where she is often very opinionated and very open about her thoughts. And there have been some controversy regarding her statements with with the original Snow White. And then at the same time, where she has been where she would be presented as pro-Palestinian and not afraid to state facts about Donald Trump. So there is that aspect that, of course, like you'll see a lot of incels and inbred YouTubers like Critical Drinker or Ben Shapiro would go and make comments about her, or like really obsessing about her to the point that they think about Rachel Zegler a lot more than they do their significant others. But then, at the same time, there is also the factor of Gal Gadot, where she's kind of the opposite side, where she's more Team Netanyahu, and that is already an aspect of controversy in itself. So that's why Disney is pretty much in the mood where they just don't want to deal with any more controversies whatsoever, and why they decided to go and have this be a pressless premiere. But I will say, though, if there is one thing about this entire premiere, or what this whole thing, like the way that Disney has recently been handling the entirety of the whole Snow White remake, I think it really I think it is a pretty much clear statement that I think Disney is ready to go and take the L on the Snow White remake. That with all the controversy and the social media blowback that they have been receiving over the years, I think Disney is pretty much ready to go and accept that there is a possibility that this movie is gonna bomb, that they might end up losing their money because of the controversies related to the film itself, or regarding the actresses who star in it. They're ready to go and say that this thing might not be successful, and that they're gonna go and be ready to go and put in a bit of an L and just lose some money, like regardless of whatever the investment is in. Like, I don't know if this is another like of their major blockbuster movies that they spent like $200 million on. And this is only like based on the premiere alone. Like this is not even counting some of the other factors as well, that they were very late in terms of putting out advanced tickets, like for pre-order. Like they did it, they put it out like much closer to the film's actual release than they have with some of their other movies, like with the Marvel movies, or even compared to some of the other live action remakes. That, and also I have yet to hear that they would do an actual press screening of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Like, I don't know, like, I don't think I don't think there have been critics who have actually seen the Snow White remake yet. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I have yet to see any posts or any mentions that the critics have already checked this out. And I mean, yeah, it's one thing if Disney would put up an embargo, but still, though, the fact that critics have yet to see it and we're only like a few days away from seeing Snow White, I think Disney is pretty much accepting that ironically enough, like what this article has actually stated here, that they just want to go and get this over with. Now, with that said, though, that doesn't mean that it is a guarantee that this movie is going to be a flop. And I mean, this is not Disney's first rodeo in this. Of course, this is not their first live action remake, and this is not the first time that they were in this type of controversy before. I mean, yeah, like it is definitely a lot more elevated compared to like the other live action remakes, but it's not really the first time that they have been experiencing this. And there is still that possibility that maybe they might not lose as much as they would probably go and expect. I mean, yes, there is that, there is that probability that this could turn out to be a flop, that this could be like the Dumbo remake, for example, that they would end up losing millions of dollars on that project and they had to go and accept the L on that. Or maybe this could be a case that could end up being similar to something like the Little Mermaid remake a couple of years back, where that also faced similar controversy, not necessarily as bad, but still the same kind of like culture war garbage that's been going on with that film. But ultimately, it ended up breaking even. Disney did not actually lose money, but they didn't necessarily make a whole lot of money on that remake either. So there is a possibility that maybe it could break even. Or it could be a possibility that it might exceed expectations and could still turn out to be massively successful. Even if there's a lot of people on social media hating this, that's not going to stop the public from wanting to go and see what this movie has in store. I mean, case in point, take a look at Mufasa. A lot of people were thinking that Sonic 3 was about to go and destroy that Mufasa movie. In fact, after the opening weekend, Sonic fans were immediately declaring that Mufasa is a bomb, that Sonic 3 destroyed it, and that Sonic 3 turned out to be the big winner. But then, over time, well, it looks like Mufasa ended up becoming the ultimate winner and made significantly a lot more money at the box office than Sonic 3. Not just internationally, not just in total, but even domestically, it ended up earning a lot more money, where in the long run, it had more staying power in theaters compared to Sonic 3. And that could also be the possibility with Snow White. It could end up becoming like a sleeper hit. Honestly, who knows? But at this stage, especially with all the controversies, I feel like there might be a stronger possibility that it could turn out to be a box office flop. But ultimately, who knows? But overall, this is just to go and highlight that, yeah, Disney, I think it's safe to say that Disney went through a lot with this remake, that there is a strong possibility that it's a lot more trouble than what it's actually worth, and that, you know, the whole journey of making this movie might not necessarily be the best idea after all. So from there, especially with what we have recently seen, the way that Disney is doing the final steps of setting things up for it to be released on Friday, with the way that Disney has been handling the premiere to make it the least controversial as possible, to make sure that people like Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler would be on their best behavior, and like the way that they've been handling like advanced tickets and stuff like that. Like, either way, even if there is that chance that it could turn out to be a hit, Disney at this point is pretty much ready for the worst case scenario, and they're pretty much accepting the fact that it's going to be a box office bomb. Maybe they'll be proven wrong, but Disney is just prepared for the worst case. All right, so with that said, now I want to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the fate of the Snow White remake? Do you think, with the way that Disney has been handling all the controversies lately, do you think that Disney is just ready to accept it as a box office bomb? Or do you think maybe things will turn things around and that the Snow White remake might actually turn out to be a hit? In fact, let's go and make things interesting with another poll here. And I want to go and ask you all, let me see here. Do you think Snow White, actually, how well do you think Snow White will do? There we go. That's a better question. So, let's ask, it will flop, it will break even, and then also it will be a hit. So let's make things interesting, start this poll off, and now let's see what the chat wall has to say. All right, so the Snow White live-action remake was always going to be terrible because it's yet another terrible live-action remake. Poor Rachel Zegler just happened to get caught in the crossfire, just like Halle Bailey before her. Still, the optics for this really aren't good for Disney. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't think that it was giving the chuds what they wanted, at least until the first reactions came out. Then they brought back that tired old Disney paid the critics nonsense. Yeah, sure, Disney paid the critics. Yeah, honestly, the people who say that, they're just going to believe whatever they want. I mean, people who think Disney unironically pays critics, they're the same people who unironically think that vaccines cause autism, all right? It's just delusional conspiracy theories for the sake of wanting to be right about everything, all right? There is no, I'm just going to go and say this right now. Like, there is no such thing as Disney paying off critics, because if that were the case, wouldn't you think that I'd be making bank right now with my reviews? Not necessarily on ad revenue on YouTube, but because of what Disney would go and give me. Like, seriously, man, it ain't just freaking happening. Like, honestly, you're just in debt. Like, really, if you believe Disney is paying critics, then that is some hell of a copium you got there. All right. Anyways, let's see what we got here. What other comments? Yes. Honestly, I have no interest seeing this movie whatsoever, but honestly, some of the controversy has been overblown, with Rachel Zegler, the hate she's gotten has been massively overblown, and it doesn't justify the harassment. As for Gal Gadot, the whole thing with Israel, I honestly understand why people were frustrated, and it's probably gonna flop. And this isn't the only premiere they did this with. They also did it with Captain America Brave New World, and the controversies with that. Yes, that is true. I did, funny enough, I did read about the fact that there was a weird premiere going on, but funny enough, I don't think it was about the actors necessarily. From what I've read, it's mostly for the sake of Bob Iger just hiding behind everyone. Like, I could just imagine, honestly, I know this didn't really happen, but the way that from what I've heard about that Captain America premiere, you get a picture of all the cast, just smiling and be happy to be there, just showing off the movie. And then you get the big logo where you just see Bob Iger just hiding on the side, it's like, are they gone yet? Yeah, but that's from what I've heard. It's mainly because Bob Iger is just trying to hide and not talk to the press whatsoever. Anyways, let's see what we got here now. Okay. I just want to go and point out, by the way, something very interesting is that, all right, so in my poll, none of you have voted that this was going to be a hit. However, 68% of you have said that the Snow White remake will break even. Only 32% have stated that it is going to be a flop. So that is honestly very interesting with how you feel about this. And by the way, just to go back into the comment that has been said before, I definitely do agree that, yeah, it's very obvious that a lot of the controversy is overblown. There are some that I do get, but especially with Rachel Zegler, you know that the grand majority of it is just because of the fact that she is a woman of color, and that that mediocre white conservative men just love to go and harass and send death threats to women of color. And a recent example that we have seen is with Ayo Edebiri, when that false rumor was spread around that she was allegedly replacing Johnny Depp for a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and that Elon Musk just proudly put it up, and that immediately caused a bunch of Trump supporters to act like terrorists and send death threats to Ayo Edebiri, which honestly is freaking garbage. And it's honestly one of the reasons why I have trust issues with people who are still on Twitter, in which it is a platform where stuff like that is pretty much encouraged. And it's also part of the reason why I highly support the Tesla takedown. And it's honestly really great to see that downhill slide we're seeing the Tesla stocks are going. Keep it up, and let's go and make Elon Musk poor. All right, let's see what else do we have here now. Snow White gonna be like the Mulan controversy again. Why is that? Well, Gal Gadot is supporting the genocide, which makes sense as to why she's playing the evil queen. Then we have Rachel Zegler demanding for a ceasefire, supporting Palestinians, and does not deserve the hate. I am sure the box office failure may have nothing to do with Rachel, but Gal Gadot. We'll see about that. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be enough to go. Like, I don't know if like the factor of Gal Gadot is really gonna be enough to really make this a box office bomb. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, yeah, I support Palestine, of course, and I support a ceasefire, but I'm just saying, Gal Gadot is not necessarily, like, the most prominent figure of those who would, like, actively go out and be on Team Netanyahu. I'm just saying. Anyways, let's see here. Speaking of El Capitan Theater, in your California trip, did you actually check out the theater itself? It's one of my favorite places to see any Disney film. It's unfortunate I couldn't get invited to the premiere because I'm not well known enough in the press circles. Well, then again, I mean, you wouldn't get to anyways because Disney wanted a pressless premiere. Anyways, only want to show up for this one just for Rachel Zegler, but it's understandable why Disney did this. The internet caused so much harm and Disney just gave up on this. Hopefully I'll get invited for Zootopia 2. And to go and answer your question, by the way, I did pass it, and I mean, I don't remember if we fully went into it, but no, like we didn't fully enter into the El Capitan Theater. We did go into the ice or the chocolate or the chocolate shop that was next to it though. So yeah, maybe next time, the next time I go to California or I go into the LA area, I definitely check out what's inside the El Capitan Theater, depending on what movie they're going to show. Let's see. Look, I'm not surprised that they did this. The road leading to this film was rough, and I could understand from a business standpoint they want to limit talk from press and other media news outlets as much as possible, not to stir the pot even more. I don't think Gal and Rachel are bad people, it's just that they gotta learn to keep their mouth shut on things. Especially Rachel is young, and Gal should know better. But no doubt Disney is ready to wipe their hands clean on this and move on. Yeah, exactly. I think I'm going to go and read one more comment before we go. So let's see here. All right, I'll go with this one. The one thing about the premiere of Snow White that I was surprised about was that the reaction of the film were extremely positive, especially with some calling it one of Disney's best live-action remakes, according to Variety. However, with everything else about this, I do feel like Disney doesn't have faith on this remake. It already went through so many controversies, especially with Zegler and Gadot's comments, and there wasn't much hype, so I believe that it will flop. Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately we're just going to have to wait and see with what's in store this weekend. I mean, we could be proven wrong and maybe the movie will turn out to be much better than we could ever expect. Or maybe it turns out to be the piece of crap that some people are expecting it to be. But honestly, I guess we're just going to wait until the movie does come out until we can fully determine what the fate of the Snow White remake shall be. All right, so now with that said, we got one more story that we're going to get into. And when we come back, we're going to go and talk about another Disney live action remake. However, I'm just going to go and say this right now. This is another reason why Disney is ready to go and take the L on Snow White, because worst case scenario, if things don't work out with Snow White, well, at least they got this one that looks like to be a much more guarantee hit. And now, everyone, it is time that we are going to go and cap this episode off with the grand finale. And with this grand finale, I'm going to be talking about the other Disney live action remake that is coming soon. In fact, this is what I stated before, the other reason why Disney is ready to go and take the L on Snow White. In fact, from what I can imagine, Disney is looking upon 2019 as to what they can go and do in order to go and move forward. Now, you may recall back in 2019, Disney suffered a catastrophic flop with their Dumbo remake, but they were quickly able to get themselves back on their feet with the Aladdin remake, which went on to become a huge hit and made over $1 billion at the box office. And this is even before the Lion King remake even stepped in and made even more. So in this case, the worst case scenario for Disney in 2025 is that, well, there is a possibility that the Snow White remake will turn out to be a flop and Disney will end up losing millions. But then, a few months later, there's going to be the other live-action remake that's going to be coming out, and there are a lot of signs that it's going to end up becoming a far greater hit. One that will be far more profitable, that it will end up making up for the losses of Snow White and then some, especially when so far it's been gathering a lot of positive reactions. Yes, indeed, unironic positive reactions towards a live-action remake. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming live-action remake, the one that is not Snow White, Lilo and Stitch.
We have apprehended a dangerous experiment.
One.
And that is the Lilo and Stitch remake, to which it will be coming out in theaters on May 23rd. Now, with all that said, from what we have just seen, I'm just going to go and say that I understand if people are not on board with this. Like, I know that with all the live action remakes that we have received, that, you know, there's a lot of people who are turned off to basically any live action remake in general. And this thing doesn't look anything that's too different from what we have gotten so far from Disney. So in that regard, yeah, like, you know, it does have a bit of that same vibe, not to mention with the fact that they are turning an animated feature into a live action remake. It does take away so much of the artistry. And with something like Lilo and Stitch, there is a significant amount, like a lot of unique artistry that is in that film that not many Disney animated features at the time actually had. Like, now it's pretty much gone, especially with the overall aesthetic done by Chris Sanders, or especially those beautiful watercolor backgrounds. They're pretty much out of this movie whatsoever and just replaced with live action. So in that aspect, from an artistic perspective, yeah, I do understand where this does look like an inferior product, that it's not going to live up to the hype of the original, and that once again we just end up having another soulless live action remake. But with that said, though, I'm not gonna lie, even I could see some potential in this. At least in terms of how they crafted this trailer, this is honestly very smart with the way that they really put their focus onto Stitch. I mean, Stitch was already first revealed during last year's D23, and that was that ended up receiving a lot of positive reactions. But now in here, we do see a lot more of how Stitch is going to be in the movie itself. And I'm not going to lie, from what we have seen with Stitch, it's actually not that bad. Like, honestly, from like all the scenes that we have seen with Stitch, like a lot of it is what people want to go and watch from Stitch. It's just being naughty and being very mischievous wherever he would go. And yeah, like, I mean, that's kind of the main thing, like what Stitch is all about and why he's been so popular ever since the release of the first movie. But in this case here, with the way that they are presenting Stitch, and one thing I am very surprised about is the animation, because generally with these live action remakes, some of the worst things about it is just the CG just looks like absolute garbage. They look like pure nightmares. Like, rather it be with the Beauty and the Beast remake with all the living objects, or the Little Mermaid with Ariel's aquatic friends, or her animal friends like with Flounder, Sebastian, and Scuttle, or even with what we're gonna have with the Snow White remake with the freaking monsters that they call the Seven Dwarves. Like, yeah, the CG is often considered to be the worst part of these live action remakes. But in here, however, with the way that they present Stitch, it's actually pretty good. And not only that, like the design itself, like, yeah, it actually does look like Stitch, but now with extra added textures. But Stitch himself doesn't actually look soulless. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. Like, they actually made him look lively. They actually made him look like a legitimate animated character with a lot of great facial expressions. And in fact, there are even some moments that, I'm not gonna lie, that it actually did make me laugh. Like, there are some moments that I actually did enjoy. Like, my favorite moment is when you see him when he was at the table, like when Dave stepped in and asked if Stitch is actually a dog, like this part.
Table. You sure that's a dog?
Yeah.
Rough.
Like, that, I'll admit, that actually got me to laugh there. That was actually pretty good. Both with the moment where you see Stitch, like, taking off his collar, and then Stitch just responding to Dave, just like, rough. You know, like, that little moment, I gotta say, that was actually pretty good. And it's not just Stitch that I find to actually look well animated, but even at the beginning, the CG in general with the aliens, they actually look pretty impressive. That they took the Chris Sanders style and translate that onto CG, or at least just the alien designs. And I find it actually does work well, that it actually translates quite nicely onto CG, and it works in its own right. So honestly, that's kind of the one thing that I will say that I am shocked and pretty impressed with, is that the CG so far actually does look lovely. Well, that is until the end of it, where we did get a peek of the other prominent aliens, or one of the other prominent aliens, and that is right at the end, where we actually get a look at Pleakley right over here.
No, wait.
Oh my goodness, what the fridge is that? I mean, yeah, it does look like, okay, design-wise, it looks like Pleakley, but still though, this right here, it's terrifying. Now with the extra details that they're adding, especially like having that giant realistic eye, this right here is like, there's the Disney live action remake that I know. There's the monstrosities of CG that I am familiar with right over here with Pleakley. And keep in mind, like, we have yet to see what Jumba looks like. And honestly, if Pleakley ends up looking like this, then I'm worried with what they're gonna do with Jumba. And I mean, yeah, sure, like, we don't see the like the Chancellor woman either. Like, at the most, we only got like the back of her head, which is like where is it? Like, yeah, like right over here. I mean, like, in the back, like, this does look like the Chancellor woman. She does look pretty familiar. And some people are even mentioning that we have yet to even see Gantu either. So yeah, that is a good point. But it's just so far with like what we've gotten with Pleakley here. Yeah, that's just not great. Honestly, this is terrifying. And also, some of you have also pointed out here, but it's also the one another thing that they have done, which is significantly update what they are going to do with Jumba and Pleakley's disguises, that now they will fully be disguising themselves as human when they're going to be on Earth, which honestly is kind of both a blessing and a curse, because on one hand, Yeah, it does suck that they're not going to be as playful when we see them on Earth, like, because part of the fun with Jumba and Pleakley is when they're going to try to blend in with the crowd, and somehow they're able to go and get away with it. And especially with Pleakley is considered to be one of Disney's definitive drag queens, which I'm just going to go and say right now, considering with how Disney's stance on the LGBTQ plus community is, especially with trans people, I sadly highly doubt that they're going to go and have Pleakley be in drag or give him a wig or dress up like Jumba's wife per se. I doubt that they're going to go and do that. I mean, maybe there is that possibility, but knowing how Disney is, they, considering that now they just really want to play it safe, I doubt they're going to do so with this version of Pleakley. So yeah, that's going to be a bit of a downer. But then again, though, even though, yeah, that does feel like a bit of a downgrade with the disguises, then again, I will say it is a bit of a blessing, because at least that means less time where we are going to see this. So you know what? Honestly, it's like, all right, I kind of get it. And especially with the fact that it's obviously a sign that Disney just wants to go and do it in order to go and save up on money, that they don't have to do as much CG as they would need if they want to truly be exactly like the remake. But still, though, it's like, okay, it's like, take it or leave it. Like, yeah, there are some parts about it that suck, but then again, there's also parts about it where it's like, nah, you know what? That's probably a good thing. And this is not even to mention about the human actors as well who are in this, especially those who are playing Lilo and Stitch. And already, one who has already stolen the show so far is the little girl who is playing Lilo. And I'm not gonna lie, her performance is actually not bad. Like, she does capture a bit of that mischievous cuteness that the original Lilo has. So honestly, I think in that regard, the girl who's going to be playing Lilo, I think she's actually going to do very well, and I think she's going to be a significant highlight. Like, people are going to love this Lilo as much as people are going to love this Stitch. The only ones that I will say is going to be more of a wait and see now is just going to be the actress who's playing Nani and who's going to be playing Dave, because Nani is also a very significant character here, and especially a lot of people who are saying is like a very underrated character because of the amount of responsibilities that she has to go and take care of, like not only like having a job to maintain the house, but also taking care of Lilo, kind of like being the surrogate mother per se. But honestly, that's going to be a factor that I think we'll have to wait until we see like another trailer that does highlight her and when the movie does come out. So I'm going to say that overall, based on what we have seen in this trailer, even as someone who is against these live action remakes, I'm not going to lie, and I honestly see great potential in this, and I got a feeling this could actually end up turning out to be one of the better Disney live action remakes. Now, I don't know if this is going to be something that could turn out to be either as good or better than the original. I highly doubt that. But for what it is, so far, it actually looks, pretty solid. And I'd even say there are some parts that actually look enjoyable. Most of the CG actually pretty impressive. And I'll even say that it even looks better than the How to Train Your Dragon remake. Some of the characters, like with Lilo and especially Stitch, is charming. And even with Stitch himself, they did great with both the animation, like to make him look lively and be comical, and even capturing the heart as well. So again, this is honestly why I feel like Disney might not be necessarily worried about how things are going to go with the Snow White remake, because right now, from what I've been seeing so far, people have been really enjoying this Lilo and Stitch trailer, and I got a good feeling that it's going to be very well received when it's going to be coming out in theaters, or at least it's going to be way better received than the Snow White remake. So yeah, if you are interested in checking out the Lilo and Stitch remake, then keep in mind that it's going to be coming out on May 23rd. And with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall And I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the Lilo and Stitch remake? Are you guys excited for this? Do you think there's actually some great potential to it? Do you guys feel like this is no different than any of the other live action remakes and it's just going to be crap? Or are you hesitant and you want to wait and see? Let me know what you all think. And also, I'm actually going to go and right in the chat wall, I'm going to go and ask you right here. We might as well go and determine this. But I would like to go and ask, do you think the Lilo and Stitch remake will be good? So we'll go and put in yes, and we'll put in no. So let's see what people have to say about it. All right. I don't know if this will be great, but at least it looks so much better than Snow White, especially with how Stitch looks. Also, it looks like Lilo's casting was absolutely spot on, and the disguise makes sense since they're aliens, so they would have more high-tech devices. Finally, no one would ever dare to claim that this film is woke garbage since the original revolves around native Hawaiians to begin with, and Stitch shot first. Actually, I would go and argue that you never know with these people, considering that there's not many white people that are involved. In fact, like the main people who are in this, they're not white. They'll find a way to go and label this as like woke propaganda or whatever. I mean, you know how paranoid these people are to the point that their conservatism looks more like a mental illness. So there is that possibility. Anyways, let's see. All right. I'm shocked to report I genuinely could check this out. I hate all the live action remakes Disney has made, but man, I gotta say, this feels like the crew behind it did something that I am shocked to see. Being true to the original and having new stuff involved, overall, I'm actually gonna think about seeing this. By the way, off topic, I met Maggie Robertson last weekend at Comic-Con. Yes, the person who voiced your waifu, AniMat's one cool AniMat. Oh, and that's supposed to be an emoji. Oh, do you mean the voice of, if I remember, the voice of Lady Dimitrescu? Oh, lucky you. Honestly, I wish I had that chance. Honestly, I think she went into, like last year's Comic-Con, but I decided not to go. Oh man, I would, I want to meet Maggie Robertson. Anyways, lucky you. Let's see here. The original Lilo and Stitch is one of my favorite animated Disney films, and I'm pleasantly surprised that this doesn't look bad. Visually, it's really impressive, especially with Hawaii. Stitch looks very impressive, and Lilo's actress must be protected at all costs. The only CGI that looks off is Pleakley. Overall, we'll see, and I think this is going to be a hit no matter what. Given Stitch's popularity, he literally has a license to print money. Oh, exactly. And I think that's like one of the major reasons why they're doing this live action remake in the first place. Considering that Stitch is still like one of Disney's most profitable franchises, it's pretty much a guarantee no matter how the movie would be, this was going to be a hit. But the factor that this could legit turn out to be good is such a significant bonus. And I think, honestly, I'm just going to go and say this right now. Honestly, like as shocking as it is, there is that part that maybe we shouldn't be so shocked, considering that this is from the director of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And this guy, like, if you have seen Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, this dude knows how to put in some charm into a movie. So in that regards, that element of Marcel being put onto Lilo and Stitch, I think that is a very positive sign. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, holy crap. I don't know what gotten into you, chat, but apparently it is unanimous. All of you who have voted have said that yes, this Lilo and Stitch remake could legit be good. No one has voted no. So yeah, there really is that strong. So yeah, apparently there's a lot of enthusiasm for this. Right. Let's see now. Hold on a sec. I'm sorry, but while I think this remake looks fine, it's still the same bloody movie. I think the one thing that actually stands out with this is that Lilo's actress is actually really good. I was nervous because of her young age, 6 or 7 when filming. She's not just really doing a good job, but she is a cute little bean. However, Pleakley's alien form is cursed in live action. Also, he would totally want a woman disguise, not look like a human man, erasing Pleakley's gender fluidity. Fair enough. Anyways, oh wow, here's someone who's literally called Stitch, Super Stitch 1999. I'm gonna be honest, I've been very cautious about this remake ever since Disney first announced it back in late 2018, but now after this trailer, I have to say it was surprisingly decent. At least it's not going to be a complete shot for shot remake, and it's going to be its own interpretation of the original story. And Stitch himself is very cute. As a longtime fan of the franchise, I hope this remake is decent at least. If there's ever a sequel, I hope the other experiments show up. Whoa, boy. Well, one step at a time. Let's go and have this remake first, and then we'll see if Disney is in the mood to go and make a sequel. Anyways, wait a minute, Matt. A Disney remake that could be good? Okay, then, I honestly do think this Lilo and Stitch remake actually looks fun to watch. The little girl who is portraying Lilo is simply adorable and needs to be protected at all costs. That Stitch CG looks great. The actress who's doing Nani is pretty cute. No joke, I actually want to check this out because of those factors. My only downside is Pleakley just looks off. If you can't beat him, then join him. Wow, there's a lot of enthusiasm here. Okay, let's see. Okay, this remake. There's some potential for this. I just wish that Ving Rhames reprised his role as Bubbles, but there is hope. It brings authenticity to the culture of Hawaii from the setting to the music. I get why people won't like this, but there's a possibility that it could work. The CGI of Stitch is a little cringe, but he does look good and adorable. Also, we need to protect Lilo at all costs. Oh my god, there's a lot of love for that Lilo actress. Like, there needs to be a lot of protection. And I mean, I get it, considering how like the anti-woke people, and you never know with people like the Quartering and Critical Drinker, they're going to go and prepare their harassment campaigns towards that Lilo actress. But, you know, like, it's always best to go and like protect them at all costs. All right, I think I only have time for one more remake here. All right. Miga nada crista! At long last, after many teasers, we finally got our trailer, and after watching this, I'm cautiously optimistic. The OG animated film is one of the top favorite Walt Disney Animation Studios films, so I'm hoping it could deliver despite the track record of these remakes. Stitch is cute, and for the most part, it doesn't seem like a shot-for-shot and adds in some new scenes that I'm sure will hit like bricks then, thanks to Dean. My only major complaint, though, is that they de-yassify my boy Pleakley. Curse you, Disney! Yes, oh boy, well, wow, this is very much a rare sight, but wow, it looks like people are legit excited for a Disney live-action remake. So if you are hyped up to see the Lilo and Stitch remake, then keep in mind that the movie is going to be coming out on May 23rd in theaters. And with that said, folks, that should do it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this fun-filled adventure, and hopefully we will have more coming in the future, or in the near future, in fact. So, if you want to go and watch more of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then all you have to do is just go and subscribe to the AniMat Live Twitch channel or the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. At the same time, you can also go and follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, whether it be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and many more. And with that said, folks, I just want to go and say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.